got a little bit of a swamp talk here tonight, so let's get down to it. Narcissistic parents out there have a real hard time with their child, offspring, individuating. And when I say they have a hard time with it, I mean they don't care for that shit at all. And it'll set off that zombie operating system. Be sure to check out my video, The Narcissist Zombie Operating System, in glossary of terms, so you can understand what I'm talking about here with the terminology and the concepts. Anyway, a narcissistic parent or parents seems to be fairly common. When it's two, and all it takes is one, and then an enabler, or just one single parent, depending on the situation. And the zombie operating system, if you will act in all of these convoluted ways to completely arrest the development, sabotage the development, and the individuation of the child, the offspring. They do this for a number of reasons, one of which because their own self-esteem is so low. It's almost triggering or something. And the child starts individuating. It sets something off in them, and they don't like that. That inner Neanderthal climbs down off that hill from playing King of the Hill in Hell, and it sees something it doesn't understand, and it says, oh, 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 oh. And it comes down off that hill, and it smashes the child's development. Smash. Forcing them to become enmeshed and entangled into their family dynamic. And what can the child do? It's a child. At this point in their life, seeing their parents as something as akin to gods. And they'll think, on some level, I have to be good. I have to be good so mommy and daddy will love me and accept me. How do I have to act in order to get that validation and attention? What a fucking nightmare. What's worse is how common this is. For whatever reason, it's absolutely unreal. And yet, lo and behold, it's all over the damn place. Personally relatable, by the way, just FYI. Say relatable is putting it lightly, but nevertheless. I had overheard someone speaking in a video recently about similar topics. I'm sorry, I don't remember who it was. If I did, I'd link the video. If I happen upon it, I'll be sure to do that. But she said something to the effect of how this can play out in dealing with anger. It's anger that often gets demonized in the child and in the family dynamic as well. You might have a toxic positivity type enabler as one of the parents. Toxic positivity is very important in these narcissistic family dynamics. Keeps the toxic homogeneity going. The feeding cycles, the zombie feeding cycles. For the child, this ends up being something very oppressive and tyrannical, but very difficult to conceive of. For one, these behaviors have become normalized. And two, the other problem is this stuff is not glaring, typically. It's low-key, it's under the rug, it's veiled, it's disguised, it's camouflaged. That's a big part of the zombie racket. You'd know what you're dealing with if it was fucking obvious. You could take one look and go, eee, something going on there. But that's not how it plays out in the day-to-day. This single example alone is one of many in these family dynamic concoctions, which are highly abusive. It causes massive disconfiguration within the development of the child. Individuation is kind of fucking important. And by kinda, I mean really. Like a lot. It's fucking paramount. The plus side is, if you didn't get that stuff growing up, it's okay. Because guess what? There is help out there. There are things you can learn about, start doing, like the whole self-reparenting thing. There's also, and I think this one is pretty important to start to understand too, just how, well, phenomenal, frankly, these kind of unconscious interlocking entanglements and coercive agreements take shape in these family dynamics and then replay themselves in other patterns, in other relationships later on in life, until or unless this stuff is examined, understood, processed. The traumas are seen, understood, treated appropriately, effectively, compassionately. One of the places I would recommend to start learning more about this, and this would be known as family of origin theory. Well, one resource that's available right now, if all you got is just an internet connection, on a phone or a tablet, a computer or something, you can look up Jerry Wise on YouTube. Now, he's not exactly the most enthralling person. And no offense, Jerry, I'm not trying to talk any shit, in case you ever see this or something. Not everybody's an entertainer. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying. What he does have is a cornucopia of information about this. More than enough to get you some kind of cursory understanding of it, so you can start understanding, getting a better idea of what's going on in there. Then that family dynamic within yourself, with how that family dynamic is played out, likely time after time within other relationships outside of that family of origin. When you start waking up from that sort of thing, you start to realize just how toxic and insidious this shit has really been. You might not have realized that at all because it's been normalized and denied with denialism. That's like the religion of denial. It's one of the many necrotic adhesives holding the whole toxic zombie family system together. I was actually speaking about this earlier today with fellow gumshoe, if you will. That would be Special Agent Luna. She's going to be coming on here before too long, and we're going to have a chat about all kinds of weird shit. So that should be pretty interesting. Might get a little unconventional. I don't know, because the two of us talking together in real time might accidentally open up some kind of portal or something. But anyway, we were discussing earlier about our own discrepancies, if you will, with a lot of the officially touted therapeutic models out there, the more mainstream ones. Because we've been through them. Went through them when we were kids. And sure, there was some aspects that were effective and others that weren't. Some made it a lot worse, while that fucking therapist would sit there, well, it gets worse before it gets better. And whereas there's a kernel of truth in that to some degree or another, let us not mistake that as an excuse for another kind of abuse, frankly. Someone burying their head in the sand. Now realizing that what they're doing is the wrong thing for that particular case. They're not really listening. They're not really understanding what's happening there. And they might not be equipped to deal with it at all. They might not want to admit that to themselves, because I'm a professional, so on and so forth. As Special Agent Luna put it, certain aspects of the whole therapy thing, that's a hotbed for zombie activity, frankly. I'd have to agree. So, unfortunately, well, I think it is fortunately. It's unfortunate because of how many hurdles somebody might have to jump through in the beginning of their healing journey, of finding resources out there that don't have anything to do with the mechanistic societal shit that's officially touted and gets all this is the way with the prescriptions. the prescriptions of advice and what you gotta do with this and that and so on and so forth. I'll go ahead and pitch a terrific alternative model right now. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Take a lovely saunter on down to the channel known as Young to Live By. That'll be Steve and Pauline Richards and James Dowling. And my. Just see what they got going on there. Check out a video called, it's either called Young versus CBT, Total Knockout, or Depth Psychology versus CBT, Cognitive Behavioral Therapy, Total Knockout. Give you an idea of how to compare and contrast those two models a little bit. There's another part of this whole thing there's a quote by Hippocrates long ago said, anyone who is not their own doctor is a fool. And yeah, that's not to say that you just discard professionals. No, it's just to be discerning, and you be discerning by experience and learning how to cultivate that discernment, opening up a bit, becoming more receptive, more tuned in maybe with, oh God, dare I even say a dreaded term like intuition. Oh my, zombies don't like intuition at all, by the way. Yeah. Zombies seem to instinctively dislike anything that can start pointing out or noticing their convoluted systems. It's all unconscious shit. You know, most zombies aren't actively participating in their zombiedom. They're burying their heads in the sand. But you can pick up on what they're up to, especially if you learn about it a bit more. Maybe start understanding that some of these wild imagery that's been coming up in your unconscious has been trying to paint a picture for you of what the fuck has been going on your entire life. That would be one of those languages of the unconscious. And I made a video about that called The Arrival of the Unconscious, using the movie Arrival, starring Amy Adams, to paint a picture of my understanding of all that and experience, frankly. And what other folks are talking about with that sort of thing in their own ways. It illustrates the idea of the language of the unconscious a little bit more too. One of the many problems with this whole denialism thing and toxic positivity is it causes every aspect of oneself that is not accepted into the zombie family system to be shoved down into the unconscious, which just creates fucking havoc. Like a landfill in an otherwise what could be rather phenomenal environment, especially after it gets cleaned up, cared for, appreciated, respected, understood within oneself. And if you start cultivating that a little bit more, learning how to communicate with her, learning how it's been trying to communicate with you, well, now there's another aspect to this whole unconscious thing, because there can be some frightening imagery going on and frightening feelings and things like that. That would be the shadow. I'll just touch on that briefly, because that can get fairly complex and elaborate, but the basic idea is the shadow contains all the aspects of oneself that have been disavowed, rejected, demonized, and relegated to the depths of the unconscious. Well, think of each of those things as some kind of living being or force, cast out of paradise, if you will, something like that. And they're running amok. They're confused. They're angry. Might look a little zombie-like. Sometimes they can appear as frightening images and dreams and nightmares. It could be often very symbolic of something that's going on with you deep down. Or it could be symbolic of something that's going on with somebody else, or a number of other people that you're involved with. Or, and this is where it gets a little extra, but there certainly does seem to be some foreign interlopers or something out there, or something. I don't know how to explain that. Anyway, it's just a good idea to be discerning. I'm not trying to say that everything awful looking in your unconscious is yours. In fact, it could be far from it. A lot of it could be internalized from introjects that the toxic family has dumped into you and molded you into an aperture of it. All these incredibly complex and convoluted things happening unconsciously. Wow. So yeah, I don't want to just go talking about the issues out there without noting some of the potential solutions or paths to explore. The thing is, in my experience, you got to be somewhat of an explorer. You've got to be somewhat of a pioneer in doing some of this stuff, because there's a lot of things that are kind of experimental. Especially with this whole therapeutic inner healing journey thing. Establishment-minded folks don't seem to care for that kind of talk. Can't imagine why. It's a bit of sarcasm there. Kind of like the family of origin. Not wanting their child to individuate. Not wanting to see their child develop some kind of sovereignty that it's meant to have, that it needs, in order to not only survive, but thrive, to exist, to live a fulfilling life. And those fucking people have just been poisoning the well your entire life. If you're somebody who has found themselves in this kind of situation. You'll certainly never get any straight answer out of them about anything like that. No, good heavens no. One of those things that you have to start uncovering for yourself. Start learning how to validate yourself, but you also have to do reality testing, especially if you might have a bit of the borderline thing going on or more. If you want to know what I mean, just look up reality testing, especially in conjunction with, keywords like BPD or borderline personality disorder, something like that. You weren't allowed to develop your emotions, basically. And those have likely been screaming out for a long time to be understood, like forces of nature, desperately seeking to be integrated back into its beloved environment. And if you take that kind of microcosm of the toxic family dynamic, the narcissistic family dynamic from highly narcissistic parents, and remember, those can express in all kinds of different ways. They can be covert, quiet types, because a lot of that going around. Cultivate that discernment. I think the train understands, it gets it. Yeah, I hear you. Well, there is that too. I mean, oh, well, yeah, well, you finished the thought there. Oh, I didn't mean to interrupt you, sorry. Are you good? Are you good now? All right, that was a conversation with the train. Yeah, anyway, take that microcosm of that toxic family dynamic, maybe extrapolate it into something more of a macrocosm. Some kind of a larger family dynamic, if you will, which could be like a community or an institution. Authority, power, control, And what does a zombie love more than anything? Power. Coercive control. Arresting development. Sabotaging sovereignty. Just saying. Some things seem to be awfully similar. Anyway, I think this one is gonna, since it's been kind of a swamp talk, sorry I didn't do the whole slideshow or anything tonight. I just wanted to get this one, let's get this one out there. So, for those of you who might be into the whole slideshow thing, hey, so am I, but it takes some time. So, you know, a little later down the line, after we keep expanding the agency, you know, hopefully maybe we could get someone in, might be down to help with some of the video editing, so we can pump out some more content. So we've got a backlog of it over here, for crying out loud. A lot of the audio. It's a lot of that. I'm sure that's probably some, how could that possibly be? How, what, you? Plenty of audio? What are you fucking kidding me? But anyway. Hope y'all are doing alright out there in your neck of the woods, or edge of a swamp, or whatever what the fucking topographical something or other, wherever you're located, you know, I hope things are going well in your neck of the woods, and if they're not, I hope you're figuring out how to get worked out. Finding some ways out. Little paths, little threads, something, anything. Bit by bit. I saw a meme recently that said, when it comes to healing, you can't take the elevator. You have to take the stairs. And whereas there's certainly times when that's true, I mean, it's been my experience, and that of many others, I don't want to discount my other experiences, and that of some others, which have been, sometimes it can very much be almost like this shamanic leap into something more. You don't want anybody to get too carried away with any kind of magical thinking here. I'd like to make a distinction between magic, if you will, and magical thinking. There is a big difference. And I'm sure we're going to get into that sort of thing before too long. But for now, I think we'll stick a pin in this one. If you all ever have any questions, commentary, or anything like that, then be sure to leave your commentary in the commentarium below. And for crying out loud, you know, like and subscribe. And ring that little fucking bell note down there, the icon, so you know when we're coming out with some new content. So forth. Alright, I think that's about it for this one. Thanks for tuning in. And until next time. By the way, be sure to pick up, you know, your latest copy of Swamp Tunes out there. It's a solo album. Been working on out here in the swamp. Here's a little sample. Love those swamp tunes. This is going to be a hit. There's going to be kids walking around like, Mom, I want to get that new copy of Swamp Tunes. That's hot shit. And they're like, what? Oh, yeah, it is, isn't it? I heard about that. That's Swamp Tunes. All right, folks. Have a good one. Good, thanks for tuning in.